G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Got another best 17 coming your way today. Today we're going to head up to the North Queensland Cowboys. Now remember guys, these are my best 17s. This is the 17 that I would pick. I'll talk about what I think the predicted 17 will be or what I think Todd Payten will do as we go. But if you guys want to find predicted 17s, you can literally type them into Google, find 1,000 of them. Timmy Williams dropped his the other day. I highly advise go and have a look at those as well on the SC Playbook website. But I'm going to go through my best 17. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could have watched this almost 10 days ago in the Roo Crew. So the link's in the description if you want to join the best rugby league community in 2025. Hit the link down there. Come and join us. $2 a week, $8 a month. We're going to have a Roo Crew Supercoach group this year as well with a big cash prize. So make sure you're a part of it. It's going to be sensational. All right, let's get stuck into the North Queensland Cowboys. Now at fullback, Scotty Drinkwater, he picks himself. He has been exceptional over the last few years. I think he's come up with something like 52 try assists in 51 games or something. He's been unbelievable. Gone to a new level over the last few seasons. I think he's the automatic there. Obviously, Hamiso was there a couple of years ago, and Drinky kept him out of the side. He's an automatic. Honestly, one of the best attacking players in the comp for me, Scott Drinkwater. I think he's in for another big season. So he'll be the fullback. Wingers. The outside backs gets a little bit interesting. Obviously, Val Holmes has departed, as has Kyle Felt. So there are a couple of big gaps that have been left there. Murray Tulangi is obviously an international. He will start on the left edge. I think that's a certainty. I think Valea will start on the right edge like he did last year at centre. I think you can lock those two in. The other spots, I think, are a little bit up for grabs. I think left centre will probably go to Zach Labart. He obviously was there last year, got injured, was doing very well there too. I like him. I think he's got a big future. So but I think he'll be left centre. I think Tommy Chester could have probably given him a run for his money. He's obviously had an ACL injury, so we want to wish Tommy Chester all the very best. But for me, I think Zach Labart would have been my left centre anyway. So a guy that we'll talk about when we get into Supercoach circles and whatnot a little bit closer to the season. He'll be pretty relevant as well. So Zach Labart at left centre. Right wing's interesting. They got Semi Valame, who 2 years ago when he burst onto the scene for this team, I was so impressed with him. In Canberra, I really couldn't see it with him. I wasn't convinced in Canberra he was ready for first grade. But when he arrived at the Cowboys, he went to a new level. His base stats were incredible. Work out of his own end, very strong, a good finisher. There's another guy that I like in this squad, though, and it's Robert Derby. I think he's played a couple of first grade games, played for PNG. I know that he's impressing up there in the preseason. And whoever gets this spot, it's obviously the right wing. So I personally think a lot of this will come down to who Scott Drinkwater feels most confident with out there. He loves the cutout ball to that wing, and because he's so good at it, it does create a lot of space inside as well because teams always have to be aware of it. Drinky and Kyle Felt, they have had an incredible combination over the last few years, and it really went to a new level last year. So that right wing spot, as far as being a try scorer, it's a pretty important one. So you've obviously got Valame, you've got Derby. Valame's been there and done it before and been strong. Honestly, I've got a gut feeling it's going to be Robert Derby, who I'm very excited about. And maybe that's a bit of like Supercoach playing into my thinking, and hopefully we get another cheapie. But I think the guy's got a huge future. I think he's I think his ceiling's a little bit higher than Valame. I'm not sure how he's going to go coming out of his own end and whatnot, which we know Valame can tick those boxes. But the Cowboys, they are a high-octane attack, and I think they'll probably go for the upside guy there. So I'm tipping Robert Derby to land on that edge, but Valame, he'd also be a great option. Either of them would be good. And I think it'll simply come down to trial form. So we'll see how it plays out. But Derby, he would be the pick for me there, slightly in front of Alame. We get into the halves. Tommy Dearden at 5'8". Look, I kind of think I'd be making Tommy Dearden sort of the halfback of this side. I wouldn't be giving him the 7, but it is his team. So he'll play 5'8". He'll sit predominantly on the left edge, but I think he will sort of be in control of this side. His halfback, I would go for Jake Clifford. Now, a lot of rumours getting around up there that Purdue could be the guy to come in at halfback, which I'd love to see. And obviously, we're getting all these rumours about their scrimmage sessions and whatnot up there that he's jumping in at halfback, Purdue. I think it is worth noting that Jake Clifford, I believe he's got an injury at the moment, just came out of hospital the other day. So it might just be a case of Purdue is the guy to step in there. They've also got Tom Duffy that I really like, but I don't know. I think that last year they made a really tough decision. They dropped Chad Townsend. They brought in Jake Clifford. That would indicate to me he's got first dibs, and I would give Jake Clifford the first opportunity in the 7 jersey. Does that mean he'll hold it all year? I'm not completely convinced, to be honest with you. I know that over the years we've had a few false dawns with Jake Clifford, thinking, okay, this is the moment where he takes off, and he's he's done well for 5 or 6 weeks, then he's sort of come back to the pack a little bit. So we'll see how he goes in 2025. I'd be starting with Clifford, but yeah, I'd be allowing Purdue to put serious pressure on him, and if I feel that Purdue's the guy at some point, I'd be happy to pull the trigger there. So we'll see. As I said, guys, Tom Duffy's another one that I really like. I do think there's a world where he could eventually be the best halfback out of all these guys. So they've got options there. It's good to see. Dearden at 6, Clifford in the 7 to start the season for me. In the front row, I know that Taumalolo is fighting an injury at the moment. He might not be available for the first month. If he was to be available, and I'm picking my best 17, Taumalolo starts in the front row with me, with Jordan McLean. I'd have both of those two up front. If Taumalolo isn't available for the start of the season, I'd probably shift Griffin Neem into the front row, but we'll talk about the bench when we get there. But I'd stick with the old boys there, Taumalolo and McLean, and I'd have a bit of impact coming off the bench. We'll get to that soon. Number 9, Reece Robson, his last season at the North Queensland Cowboys, heading to the Sydney Roosters next year. The New South Wales hooker, I think he was in the Australian squad as well, Reece Robson, one of the elite 9s in our game. He's an automatic. Jake Granville obviously won the grand final there, 10 years ago now, which is crazy. He's obviously left the club. It was always Reece Robson as the main 9, though, over the last few years, and he will continue to be in 2025. On the edges, obviously, Helam Lukey, he's injured out for the season. We want to wish him all the very best. I've said it on a number of occasions. Nanai's got on this incredible run over the last few years. I personally think if you could swap Lukey's injury run with Nanai, I think Lukey could be in the same spot. I think he's so fucking talented. His body's just doing him no favours, unfortunately. So Helam Lukey, he'll be out for the season with an ACL injury. The week before that, they signed John Bateman, and we all sort of sat there and went, oh, geez, I don't know. Where's he going to fit? How's that going to work? It's turned out to be a masterstroke. Helam Lukey injured John Bateman straight onto the edge. Nanai will be on the other side. So Bateman and Nanai on the edges. Johnny Bateman, I think he's mostly played right edge over the last couple of years, but I think he could play on the left, and I think Nanai could as well. So I think it'll just depend on combinations and what they want. I know that they're both very unique back rowers. Bateman loves to cut back under and sort of go a little bit rogue. So I do wonder if maybe you put him with a Jake Clifford over on the other side and you let Nanai and Dearden play together. I'm not too sure. They'll have to decide what's best for the team there. But those two would be my edges. Which side they're on, I'm not too sure. Jersey 13, one of the co-captains, Ruben Cotter, locks a scrum in Jersey 13 for me. One of the most improved forwards in the comp over the last few years, the beating heart of the Cowboys, in my opinion. He will line up in Jersey 13. I don't think there'll be many arguments there. There's been calls for Taumalolo to shift back there. Look, I wouldn't. I would just leave Taumalolo in the middle. More so to the point, you can't trust what minutes Taumalolo is going to play in a game. You can't trust how many minutes he's going to play week to week. For just consistency of this side, I would just keep Ruben Cotter in Jersey 13. All right, let's move to the bench. Carl Lawton is a signing up there. I've always loved Carl Lawton. I think he's a very, very good footballer. Last year, he played on the edge a little bit for the Manly Seagulls and, held his gloves up there well and truly. He can jump into the halves. He can play hooker. He can play anywhere in your forward pack, essentially. If you tell him to play front row, he'll jump in and do it. He's got a bit of fucking lunatic to him. I really like Carl Lawton, and I think he's a really good 14 to have in your side. So I'd have him in Jersey 14. Very like for like with Jake Granville. Probably Jake Granville's a little bit more versatile, but Lawton will do a job for you in a number of spots. The other guys on the bench for me, I've got Jersey 16, I've got Sam McIntyre, signed from the Gold Coast Titans, went up there last year or the year before, did incredibly well. I thought he was one of their better players last year, and I think he's going to be an integral part of this side moving forward. And Griffin Neem, obviously, on the bench as well. That leaves me with one spot. And look, I've got 3 names here. I've got Cohen S, who returns from injury. I've got Harrison Edwards, that I love, tough as nails. And I've got Tom McHaley, who I'm hearing is doing good things. Now, with these guys, Cohen Hess, he's the most experienced guy there. I probably think he'd be the first guy chosen once he's fit and available. I imagine he'd be on a reasonably big wicket up there as well. Harrison Edwards is tough as nails. I'd love to find a spot for him in this side, just not sure if I can. Tom McHaley is the wild card. Now, I spoke to a senior Cowboys player the other day about who's doing well up there. I got thrown 3 or 4 names at me, and one of them was McHaley. And I even said to this player, I go, fuck, mate, it'd be a game changer for you guys if McHaley jumped out of the ground. He sort of said, yeah, fucking would it ever. So McHaley's one to watch. Now, I'll be honest with you, and we even joked about it on Beers and Break Evens the other day with Timbo. we said the other day, every preseason he's going a million. He looks great, and he has these flashes in first grade, but it's just hard to get that consistency out of him. If Todd Payten can do it, he could be a real game changer for this side. So for me, I think Hess is the next man up. With Taumalolo missing for the first few weeks, what I would do is probably move Griffin Neem into the starting side, and I'd probably bring McKaylee onto the bench. Harrison Edwards probably the unlucky guy as it stands right now. So that's my 17 for the North Queensland Cowboys for season 2025. I would have fullback Drinky on the wings. I would have Darby with Valamay just behind him. I would have Murray Tuolangi, centers Labart and Valia, the halves Tommy Did, and I'd start with Jay Clifford, but I think that's an open race for the season. Taumalolo and McLean in the front row. Reece Robson at 9. On the edges, Bateman and Nanai. Ruben Cotter in jersey 13. My bench would be 14, Lawton. 15 would probably be Cohen Hess. Then 16, McIntyre. 17, Griffin Neem. If Tom McKaylee is playing his best footy and he's being consistent, he's producing it week in, week out, I will find room for him on the bench though. So competition for spots, as we always say, a positive thing in any footy side of the North Queensland Cowboys. They have plenty of competition for spots. Guys that missed out, obviously it looks like Harrison Edwards probably misses out on that side for me. I think he's incredibly unlucky. Purdue, we're hearing he's playing halfback at the moment. I don't know if he will round 1. I'd go with Clifford, but Purdue's another one. You could even bring him off the bench in jersey 14 over a Carl Lawton if you wanted to. Braden Burns hasn't made the side. I've heard rumours that he's very close to making it, and I'd be more than okay with that. He does a lot of work out of his own end, Braden Burns. He's obviously had a tough injury run over the last 4 or 5 years, but he can definitely play. Jackson Borlo's up there as well, another handy guy to have in your squad. Tom Duffy, Shibasaki, a young guy with a big future up there. Kai O'Donnell's the little wild card. He returns from the Super League to the Cowboys. When he was at the Raiders when he was younger, I thought he was going to be a gun, and it just never quite seemed to progress for Kai O'Donnell. He's one just to keep an eye on. I genuinely thought he was going to be a weapon. It just never quite kicked on for him. He went over to the Super League. He's now coming back. He's going to a side that they're pretty stacked in the forward pack, obviously, but they've got a Helam Lucan injury already. There might be more injuries to come. Just keep an eye on Kai O'Donnell because I think he can play, and I think he has got a future in the NRL still. So that's my Cowboys, 1-17 that I would pick. And to be honest with you, I think the side that Todd Payten will pick will be somewhat similar, but it is hard to get much news out of the North Queensland Cowboys. If I'm honest with you guys, it's probably the hardest place to get news out of, but I think his team will look somewhat like that. I'm pretty confident the forward pack and the bench will look a lot like what I've named there, pending how Tom McKaylee goes in the preseason, in the trials and whatnot. But that's my Cowboys 1-17 side. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the link down in the description and come and join the Roo Crew for season 2025.